Storm has been getting a lot of hate online, with most players not giving her a chance because they saw a YouTuber put her at the bottom of a tier list, or they tried her once, played her like Iron Man and immediately died, then swapped characters. Well, she's not actually that bad. Remember the public opinion on Wolverine until somebody actually learned how to play him, and it was like 2 weeks later, not even. Sure, he didn't shoot to the top of tier list, but he's definitely not an F tier anymore, and neither is Storm. But Black Widow? Yeah, Widow deserves that spot. Despite being able to fly, Storm plays best while low to the ground. Her speed and attack boost hangs around her like a sphere, so the higher you get, the less area there actually is for the boost to be applied to your teammates on the ground. And on top of that, her attacks pierce and one of her abilities chain, so simply volleying them from behind your tanks and other damage characters is your best bet. It's your safest bet, especially since she moves really slow in the air, and if any good DPS sees you, well...
Blow that piece of junk out of the sky!
I was just randomly recording gameplay with Storm for this video, and this was my first game with her today. I ended up hitting the highest KO streak I've ever had with her yet, and although it is in quick play, she's still better than what people are making her out to be. Sure, in high elo she won't be phenomenal, but she's definitely not F tier, especially in low elo where no one has any idea what they're doing anyways, and they usually run 4 duelists and if you're lucky 1 vanguard. Though Storm does have one of the worst basic attacks in the game. It has a relatively short range before damage fall off, and it moves really slowly through the air, so you have to crazy lead your shots, and you have to reload it. You have to reload wind. But at least it does pierce through enemies, so just make sure you stay behind a tank and throw that air down choke points and pierce through your enemies. Hit that tank and then go right through to their damage, through to their strategist. So it's pretty useful for that. Also, make sure that you're utilizing her Enhanced Thunder ability. You can boost your teammates' damage and hit enemies nearby with the lightning blast that come automatically with it. It's especially helpful for if you save it for like when an Iron Fist or a Spidey inevitably dives you, or a tank gets a little bit too close for comfort, like if a Venom or a Thor start to rush you too. The wind version slows enemies caught within the area and boosts ally speed and your own speed, which is good for getting to a point, but if you're getting, like if somebody's diving you, the lightning version is going to be more helpful than the wind version more often than not. Because, for the people who like numbers, Enhanced Thunder will give any teammate in your radius an 8% damage boost while you get double that, and that's without even activating the ability. You just get that for being in the circle. It's a constant effect if you have the Thunder on. If it's wind, it's for movement speed, but for Enhanced Thunder, it's a permanent damage boost if they're in your circle. You'll see that little number at the bottom. Blue is good and red is bad guys in there, obviously. And then when you activate it, the teammate boost jumps to 12% damage increase, and yours goes to 30% for the, what is it, like 10 seconds or something you get. It doesn't get talked about that often. It's a huge advantage in team fights, and enemies in the area also will take occasional damage from you, even though you're not aiming at them, even though you don't even know where they are half the time, because you're in the circle. They could be behind you. You activate that, they're getting damage from you, your teammates are getting the boost. It can be really advantageous in a team fight that you might be losing otherwise. Then you got her Bolt Rush ability, which is usually best saved for picks or for piercing. It has a short windup and then shoots much faster than her basic attack. It's got a decent cooldown, and it can pierce through enemies, like I just said. So when Hulk turns to Bruce, so that Spidey is fleeing from you, you can just pop them with that if you've got decent aim. Or if the whole team is piled together and you have to reload your basic attack, or maybe you just want to do some extra damage, you just blast through them and pierce their team, and then it just helps lower their health. You know, get that damage stacking if they're in a hallway or on top of a payload or whatever, and chip away at their health. A good Storm player can easily finish the game with the most assists and most damage and most KOs in the entire match, but she's not necessarily meant for just KOs like other duelists could be. Storm should be utilized like a hybrid between a duelist and a strategist, and I'm sure everybody else who talks about Storm actually being good says that. You can, since you're boosting your teammates with even a small percentage of extra damage when it's not active, an 8% damage increase can help win a lot of team fights if your team knows to stay within that radius. And you can whittle supports down straight through the vanguards if they're not too far away with your Bolt Rush or your basic even, and you can clean up with picks if you get the opportunity to do so. Maybe you go above and hit a pick if you can't aim properly through somebody, because you can fly, but she does better on the ground. And Storm's ultimate is also amazing if you don't fail with it like I do during this game. I think I use it twice and I don't do very well with it. But it is really good if you don't fail like me. And it can easily turn the tide of any payload or capture point as long as the enemy team doesn't have a healer ult to counter you. But that is, you can say that about any ult. It does charge really slowly though, so it should be saved for just the right moment. You should be more conscious about when you ult with Storm than with most other characters. Maybe you can clear out the supports to start a team fight, or maybe you take out a duelist that's a problem. Like let's say you're in a high elo. I don't know, you probably shouldn't play Storm in high elo, but let's say you were, and for some reason Hawkeye and Hela were not banned, and they're causing a lot of problems, then you can pick them off with the ultimate. But you're probably going to play Storm at low elo, and then there's going to be a lot more Hawkeyes and Helas there too. Just make sure you end the ult in a safe location. So if you activate it, she does a little animation where she's still vulnerable. So do that behind cover, and then you're going to turn kind of like Jeff, where you go under the ground and then move, and you move your radius under the entire enemy team to the back to their supports. Then you activate it, the tornado starts, and you kill their supports. Then you move the entire ultimate towards your team now, because you're going back to your team. You hit the duelists, you hit the vanguards, and then you come out of your ult back with your team so they can heal you or support you, so you don't ult with your team, go to their backlines, and then get obliterated. So it's best to do it the opposite, if that makes sense. And then there's obviously her team up ability with Thor that isn't that great on its own, but it allows another similar attack to Bolt Rush, but this one can chain up to 3 enemies if they're pretty close together. So instead of piercing, you chain. So if people are on the side, you do damage to them. But it's really not that great. If all of her abilities are piled together, that one is pretty low on the list of what's good. But Storm is apparently getting a buff during Season 1. That's what I've been reading on Twitter at least today. So we may be seeing a Storm meta if people start learning how to use her properly. Most players have never played against her and have no idea what to do when they do see her. No idea how her abilities work or how to counter her since nobody uses her. So right now, you can utilize that while you still have the chance and prove everyone wrong about Storm. Storm is an awesome character. Learn to play her and give her a chance. I know she doesn't play how many people imagine she would have, and I do agree she does deserve a buff, but she's better than you think.
Double kill!